And welcome into PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. With me on these Thursday night excursions into the Newsmaker's world of sports is Gary Stein. Gary, how are you?
I'm good, Stanley. How about yourself?
I'm very well, very well.
Feeling better?
Getting a lot better.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm excited about our conversation tonight because it's somebody that you and I know fairly well, and her name is Cameron Levine. And she's the daughter of a good friend of mine, Charlie Levine from Team Up for One, and his wife, Robin. But she's here tonight to talk about her lacrosse playing career, which has taken her through her sophomore year at Johns Hopkins University. We welcome in Cameron Levine. Cameron, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Now, I was so excited to have you on that I forgot to read my sponsor read. So let me get that out of the way. We are brought to you tonight, as we are each and every Thursday night. And Gary's nodding his head. Look at how Stan,
he's doing it again, Cameron.
Doing it again. He's amazing, isn't he?
Totally.
But all kidding aside, we are brought to you by our very good friends at the Costas Inn, located 4100 North Point Boulevard. I'll talk to you a little bit more at the end of the show about what they're promoting. All right. So joining us is Cameron Levine. Cameron, you've played lacrosse for a good while. You had a lot of suitors looking after signing you. What was it about Johns Hopkins and Janine Tucker over there at Hopkins that won the recruiting battles for one Cameron Levine?
Yeah, I mean, the second I honestly got to campus, I did commit when I was early in high school when I was a little bit younger, but the second I got to campus, I just knew I was meant to be here. I'm definitely a homebody, so being home and local and just knowing that close to home already gave it that comfort idea and that vibe. And then I went to little camps, like Blue Jay camps all my life, and just always looked up to Coach Tucker. And I call her CT in this because that's just our nickname for her. But you know, getting to that step of like knowing that there's a chance I could play for her and just visiting campus and having more of a personal one-on-one connection with her alongside all the times I saw her at those camps. I just knew like right there was a good spark. You know, there were positive vibes in the air and something just felt right about it right away. A good like warmth and comfort idea.
So before I turn you over to Gary for a couple questions, this must have been something this season to get the news from Coach Tucker directly to the team that she was going to step down at the end of this year. Must have made the season kind of bittersweet because this is not somebody that just recruited you for 1 or 2 years, somebody you've known for 7 or 8, 9 years.
Yeah, definitely a bittersweet feeling for sure. We were told about it earlier on in the season, right? Like even before fall ball. So knowing that we have 1 full year left with her definitely made it much more special and unique. And just having that in mind only brought the team together more. And I think, you know, it just was always a push for us to work harder, go 150% in everything. And just knowing how special, you know, that Hopkins family really is.
Yeah.
Cameron, you know, Hopkins is a special place just in general. Number one, look, the lacrosse tradition, both men's and women's, makes it even more special. And I know that you went to the Blue Jay, you know, kids camps and you were kind of brought up in that tradition. But was there a point in time where it finally hit you that you were about to take the field, or you did take the field, of where so many great games have been played, so many great players have played on those teams, and so many championships have been won on that field?
Yeah, I mean, the second I got there, just officially being a student athlete there was something really special, and also just in very unique years with COVID and everything. So I think the second I honestly put on that, even just the practice gear for the first time and stepping on with mouth guard, goggles, cleats, just suited up, being able to rep the name Hopkins on the front and back of my jersey, being able to rep my number 41, just that was, I think, the moment, just being able to walk on with my team and just being ready to like officially say that I'm at my first practice ever participating, being on the Hopkins women's lacrosse team, and just like being able to have Homewood Field. Like I do my work. We have like it's the Cordish Lacrosse Center. I hang out there. I mean, we actually have a nickname. We call each other Cordish Rats if we're there from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That I happen to be one of those. I just love spending time being able to just look at at Homewood Field when I'm doing homework, or even just when you need a break from studying and your teammates just go out to shoot around for fun or just lay there in the sun. Just being able to really just sit and my coaches like to say, be where your feet are. If just being able to really be fortunate enough to step on that field every day and know how much history happens and how I'm just able to step on it every day. It's definitely something I'm very grateful for.
They say that sometimes the most well-rounded athletes are the ones who played multiple sports over the course of their, young lives, et cetera, developing different muscles, different parts of their body, different muscle memory, right? Were you a multiple sport athlete, or did you concentrate just on lacrosse?
I played basketball the same amount of years I played lacrosse. When I was a little bit younger, I had to decide if I wanted to go travel basketball or club lacrosse. So I ended up sticking with lacrosse, but I played basketball and had a great high school career at Roland Park Country School. So played basketball just as long, just decided, lacrosse was the right thing for me for college.
Well, your dad, by the way, is not only your biggest fan, he could be your biggest PR, functionary. He does an incredible job, and he's kept both Gary and I up to speed on your burgeoning career over there. Let us know when you were recruited by Hopkins and how special it was that you were going there. And this year, his big thing was that, and Cameron is starting as a sophomore, and that doesn't happen that often. So could you talk a little bit about that? Was there a conversation where Janine Tucker pulled you aside or talked in front of the team about you taking such a significant role in just your second year there?
Yeah, we definitely have our meetings, just depends on like the time of the year. So since I play defense, I would have a meeting with Coach Tucker, head coach, and then Coach Tara Singleton, the defensive coordinator. And at the end of the fall, you have those meetings going into winter break of just kind of having a meeting and talking about where you stand, where you are, what you need to improve on. So that meeting, that's kind of what sparked me. I always push myself 150%, but like that meeting, I know going into that winter and like before the spring season, fall is just as important, but I knew like this is really my time to shine and really start really working to get that spot. And you'd have your meetings here and there, but really what pushed it was a couple of days before the game, and Coach Tara, she called me into my office, and all the coaches, they obviously make the decision together, but CT, of course, is known to be the big dog. So she was also part of the conversation, but it was more just a meeting with me and Coach Tara, and just, asking me if I wanted to start and if I'm able to take that role and do that job and just do it for my team. And, 100%, I would obviously commit to that for my teammates.
So when you were given the word, that motivated you even further, didn't it?
Yeah, so being my sophomore year, like the freshman year again with COVID was a very unique one. And, it was obviously a little bit challenging for the freshman class. There's 11 of us. And everyone was put in a new situation. We were getting tested. I think it was actually 9 times a week for like this type of testing we were doing. And then we had to wear masks. So freshman year, we had to wear masks outside at practice, literally 6 feet apart. It was a very unique experience. And just being that freshman, it just was a little, everything's always challenging. You always have to push yourself, but just with the unknowns and the circumstances, we definitely, we're just learning to adapt even more to like already getting to Hopkins as, second semester freshman, not really know what's going on. And then that freshman going into sophomore summer, that's when I you said, like times are changing. There are a bit more answers with COVID, even though there's still some unknown things like that. And I just really, from that moment, just wanted to push myself to just be able to put on the uniform and play.
And before I turn you over to Gary for the next couple of questions, you seem like a pretty honest grader of yourself. How do you think you did playing as much as you did in your sophomore season, taking on a leadership role? Would you give yourself like a B plus, A minus?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not really good at this type of stuff, but I would say that personally, I felt, and I feel like even watching film and things like that, I've seen myself grow. And I think I was asked at the end of the year by my strength and conditioning coach, like, what motivates you? And I think it's honestly my teammates. Like, no matter the circumstances and these years, like, we have stuck together as a unit. And I think that's really the thing that pushed me the most, to just strive and get better every day for the people around me.
Darren.
I mean, how old were you when you started playing?
I was about 4 or 5. I actually started playing with my sibling Maddie. And that unfortunately didn't work, but they pushed me just to get out there and do my thing.
So take me on this journey then. You start playing when you're 4 or 5 years old. You play all the way, rec ball, travel ball, all that stuff, right? M&D, and all the way through high school, Roland Park Country, and then on to getting ready for college, right? You had already committed. So you had been playing lacrosse for what, 13 or 14 years, and I'm going to use this term very loosely. You hit the sweet spot of COVID. Not only was your high school senior season ruined, but basically your freshman beginning in college was basically ruined or up in the air, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, talk about like rust, okay, for a minute. Here you had played for 13 or 14 years, and now barely you could play for a year, maybe even more. What was the rust factor, and how did you deal with all of the changes that were going on really in the world at that time?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a unique experience, to say the least. But I think just the loss of experience, I think, was what hit a lot of us, because like for me and my household circumstance, I couldn't really like go out on the field. I mean, fields were closed. Like, people would come up and kick you off the field because no one knew what was going on with COVID. So it really just turned out to just be my throwback and my goal in my backyard, and then just really do like going out there every day, even multiple times a day, because there just wasn't much going on. It's kind of the only thing that really kept me going, and just the continuous constant runs in the same neighborhood, same path for pretty much every single day is really the only thing you could really do. And I think being able to get to Hopkins and just being like, actually in the fall of 2020, we weren't being coached. We weren't allowed to do anything. But together, like, our team made a group chat, and we would go to like Meadowood Park and just use a field or the turf there and just get our own reps in. That was a little bit after, like, there were some more answers with COVID, but like that senior year of high school definitely was just being outside and just getting a stick in my hand and really just kind of doing my own thing. But it definitely getting there was a little bit of, wasn't scared. Well, I wouldn't say it's like a scared feeling, but it just was, you have to just get back into it and just try to follow people's footsteps and figure it out. I mean, it kind of just like go with the motions, like ride the wave, try to, like, I had very supportive teammates that were around me, and coaches completely understood our situation, and everyone just was everyone together was trying to figure out how to get everything back to normal in some way, shape, or form.
I'm curious from this perspective for a second. You're young, and when you're young, even in college, I'm not even saying grade school, high school, but even in college, like bad things generally don't happen, like, and if something does happen, like, your dad takes care of it. Like, there's not a lot of bad news, thank God, that goes on. But all of a sudden, here you are, you're in your first or second year of college, and COVID happens, and, stuff's happening in the world these days that never seemed to used to happen when Stan and I were kids. And I'm just wondering, from a young person's perspective, like, how you think about all that stuff, about what goes on in the world and COVID, and just like having to deal with negative things maybe for the first time in your life.
Yeah, I feel like social media, like, that's kind of the first thing my mind goes to, just play such a big role
Me
in
too.
that.
Right.
And I think there are great things that can come out of it, and just like technology itself. But I think society and, just social media itself has been something that is like, my generation's only grown up with that. And I think that definitely has just played a huge role when you look at the differences of generations and how it's affected people. I think just like, it's taken such a huge step communication wise about all different kinds of topics that it's sometimes actually, it's pretty overwhelming, like, when I think about it. And as much as like there are days, I would like to say I would want to remove myself from social media, because that's all people like use and do to communicate. It kind of, me doing that just actually removes myself, versus it being the other way of like, if we like get rid of social media, that might make better connections, community, things like that. But it's just unfortunately the way I see it and like what I've personally been around, it's sometimes the opposite. It's definitely, interesting way to go with things.
Mhm.
Something.
So the other day, I'm watching the semifinals and the finals of the women's lacrosse. And I have to be honest, as I think about it, I keep thinking of Kathy Reese in Maryland winning almost like every year, that it didn't even dawn on me that they hadn't won like last year. Boston College won. And there's a player on Boston College, and I'm sure you'll know her name, Charlotte.
North.
What's her last name?
Charlotte North.
Charlotte North. I had never heard of Charlotte North. I remember Taylor Cummings tremendously. I remember hearing how great Jen Adams was, even though I didn't really see her. But during the broadcast of the semifinals and the finals, the announcers were talking about Charlotte North, how many young girls out there are aspiring to be her. I'm wondering, when you were growing up, was it Jen Adams? Was it Taylor Cummings? I guess you're not that far removed from Taylor in age, but I mean, who did you look up to that you really wanted to be like?
I mean, I will be completely honest on this. I was never really like, I never really pinpoint a certain person. I just
Okay.
remember watching the games, being able to go to Hopkins for some games. We obviously would be there, being a little bit down the road, but I'm like glad you asked me that question, because I don't actually. Taylor Cummings was definitely a popular face when I was growing up, but I wouldn't say, like, for me personally that wasn't the person.
Right.
Like, I didn't really have that, which is really interesting now to think about. But
Well, it's interesting to think about. You're a defensive player. You tend to look up. I don't know that many people look up the defensive players. You know, they want to be the goal scorer or something like that. So would you have equally have looked up to a male player just as much as a woman? It was stylistically things about players that you liked and how they defended.
yeah, I think obviously, like, being a part of women's lacrosse, it definitely was a bit more appealing to me. But there were times, I'm even to like this day, whether it's Hopkins or just other men's teams playing, like, I love watching it. And I think time back to that Charlotte North idea, like, she's kind of connected the two in a way, just by her play and the way she
Yeah.
progressed as a player. And I think just like the general lacrosse world, really, it ties into both men's and women's. I think the women's game is growing a really large amount, which is awesome to see. But I mean, I think I would look at a men's player the same as a women's player. And like, some pros, some cons, some similarities, some differences, but didn't really have a pinpoint person there.
Did you get to see Maryland's men team play that much this year? I guess your schedules are you're so busy as a player, but did you have an appreciation of what they were accomplishing this year?
Yeah, I was able to watch a couple of their games. With the schedules, it was a little bit hard just to watch certain ones, but I mean, their one unit, I remember watching a video, and like their word for their team was love. And I think when you have that one theme, that word, like something of that sort, it really, if every single person in the program's committed to it, like, it's going to take you far. And clearly they got the job done, and that's what happened. So I was able to see a little bit of their stuff. But
Gary?
Cameron, I'd like to talk about the life of a college athlete for a minute, the demands that are put on college athletes. You can turn on your TV now pretty much at any time of the day, any sports channel, and college sports have never gotten more attention than they're getting today. And I'm not even talking about the quote unquote revenue sports, the basketballs and the footballs of the world. I'm talking about college baseball, softball, men's and women's lacrosse, other sports, gymnastics. They're on all the time. And with that media attention and coverage comes increasing exposure, but also comes scrutiny, demands, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective, and unfortunately, and we had a chance to talk about this, unfortunately, sometimes, mental health issues are now prominent in terms of collegiate athletics, in terms of all people, just in general. But how do you handle that? What are the demands on you? How is your day? Do you have any time at all? What's a day in the life of you like?
yeah, I mean, depending on the season, if it's fall or spring, you obviously adjust with like the times you have practices, but it's practice and lift. And like, that's a 3-hour commitment of actually like being in and physically playing or lifting. And then that's like plus and minus the 30 minutes before where you like eat something, you change, then you have all your work, and you have all of your classes to go to. So it leaves a sliver of time to shower, sleep, eat some food. So it's definitely a handful, a lot on the plate, but I mean, it's something that we all commit to. And like the biggest lesson I've learned is time management. But I will say that it's definitely, everyone has a different experience with everything. And I think, I think just having awareness of like, just people understanding like how much is actually on our plates physically, emotionally, mentally, allowing proper resources to be at universities for people is definitely something huge and something like I've benefited from being at Hopkins and like being grateful that those resources are there. And I think it's a given that like with college athletes, when you like either know of someone or just like we all share similarities of like just the title of being a college student athlete. But obviously again, like there's those different experiences, but I think mental health is definitely something that obviously has grown and has been like unfortunately like a more populated issue with college athletes. And I think just like honestly pushing the awareness, again, communication goes a long way, but actions speak louder than words. And I think just more physical movement with something of that sort is needed, but also like the understanding and more awareness of like it's generally okay not to be okay, and that asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. Like removing those stigmas, I think, is something like I personally would want to push, and just really at least like baby steps help my teammates out with that type of thing. And it like if that goes across to more people, that would be able to help other teams, helping more people and things like that.
So is this an active point of discussion, like between you and your teammates? Like you have, opportunities to confide with one another or with, someone maybe on the coaching staff, et cetera, if someone is not doing well or feeling well or, whatever the situation is?
Yeah, I mean, I always will say no matter where it is, who it is, like I think there's always room for improvement. I think unfortunately, like when these unfortunate circumstances happen, obviously different experiences again, but like you take it personally knowing that it's, a fellow college student athlete, because you get it. Like it's a little hard to explain. And that's, I think, the thing of like, it's hard to explain to someone who really isn't living in it. But, like, I mean, I will say like, I got emotional upset with recent and like all, passings of really great people, great students, great athletes. And I think just helping each other out and being there for each other, like saying like as simple, like CT would always tell us, like, tell your friends and your family you love them. Like, don't let little things like that just slide or go away, or like, don't take them for granted. Just being there. And I think like having the conversation is important, but of course, like you do have to be careful, and it's just like more awareness and just more understanding, I think, will really help everyone. But, just checking in on your teammates is really, like, I know like that's a more popular saying recently, but a saying is a saying, but it's really true. And it really does go a long way, especially for us.
Following up on Gary's question, getting more playing time as a sophomore and, basically becoming a starter, did that bring with it more where the younger players, and I'm anticipating next year even more when you have freshmen and you're a junior, where they would try and lean on you or ask you for advice? Did it occur more than you were used to in the past?
Sorry, do you mind me asking, like, did what occur a little bit more?
The fact that younger players were leaning on you,
Yeah, I think,
looking for some type of leadership or mentorship.
yeah, I think specifically like for our team right now, I think like now becoming an upperclassman and like that senior or junior going to be senior class, think, we all want to take up the challenge, but it's definitely going to be a good amount on our plate of, with a coach. We don't really know what's going on with that quite yet.
Yep.
But just that general adjustment is something that like I already know I have in a good way that weight on my shoulders of instantly like telling myself and those older teammates, like we have to take care of those younger people. And I mean, I love helping people out. It's something I really want to do. And like right away, just knowing freshmen are coming in, like all I want to do is help. But I think it's definitely, again, it's kind of like that's something you signed up for. Like your teammates are your family, honestly, no matter what. And I think, it's something to be excited about, but also like it does take a little bit of a toll on yourself, but you sign up for it, and it's something like everyone's gonna help each other out. Like you're gonna help someone out, they're gonna learn that from you helping them out. They're gonna want to help either you back or somebody else.
Hey, we're gonna snap our fingers and you'll be in your senior year. I don't want to blow past, I don't
So
want to blow
true.
past two seasons, but you look at the end of your playing days, because again, I'll be honest, I don't think there's a premier league for women's players at this point in time.
There's
Or maybe they're
yeah,
starting to
there's
be.
Athletes Unlimited is pro lacrosse.
Okay.
They just had their draft the other night. But that's the start. And it's
That's the start of it.
yeah, and I remember watching they have like it's a summer league. So I watched that all summer. And that's growing, and that's something it's pretty cool.
Is that something that appeals to you? And I guess my other question would be, would coaching appeal to Cameron Levine? Because you clearly have a love for the game.
100%. I would love to do some coaching. I don't really know what level that would be at. But I'm not sure if it wants to be club, high school, college, but definitely just the idea of coaching. I coach a club team now. And I love just going to practice and being able to share my experiences and just teaching and growing like other girls' love for lacrosse is definitely something. And I don't know, they call it AU Pro, but I love watching it. So I think with more experience and just 2 more years of lacrosse under me, the opinions are like where I get as a player might change even more. So I think that just depends on the situation and what's to come, but I'm not against it.
Last thing I have for you, and then Gary will give Gary one more. Do you have any apprehension, or would you call it excitement, about finding out who will be coaching you the next 2 years?
I mean, there's so many unknowns, and I think just waiting for an answer is really what I'm itching for. I always know CT is going to be around, and she's definitely going to be a help, and she's obviously never going to be a stranger. She grew this Hopkins program to just pure amazement, love, family, all the above. And I think knowing that she's going to be around, and I trust her, and I believe she's going to be around, because I don't think she really does want to go. But I think I'm excited. I mean, it's just an unknown. So I think like automatically there just is some anxiety, and I wouldn't say worry, but it's just like, you just don't know. And I think I'm excited to see where it goes, because this could be like really great change. And knowing that I have a handful of the same teammates coming back, plus, a few minus a few, like regardless, those people are going to be around all the time. Everyone's going to always be supporting. And I think, just what's to come is what's to come. I'm trying to keep like always an open mindset with everything, but we'll see what happens.
Very impressive. Gary, you got a last question for Cameron?
Yeah, just a final question. I'm sure you're well aware the U.S. women's national soccer team just made historic news in terms of pay equity with their men counterparts. I know that women's lacrosse, as you said, you've got the startup league. It's not quite as advanced as men's lacrosse at this point, and even men's professional lacrosse is still looking for some solid footing. But could you ever see a situation or a time when perhaps women's lacrosse could do as well as women's soccer has done, to the point now where women's soccer, like we just said, is on equal footing in terms of pay with the men?
Yeah, I think regardless, lacrosse is definitely, there's like some room where the game could even grow more. Like I remember even when I was younger, like lacrosse in the Olympics would be something amazing to see. And years down the road, it still isn't quite a thing, but I feel like under my skin it's getting there. But I mean, it definitely could. I think if the game just grew a little bit more, worldwide, I think the popularity of it could get a little bit close and similar to soccer. But I mean, I would hope like equal pay would be something that does happen for men's and women's lacrosse. But I know also like, depending on the circumstance, if not, women's lacrosse will be fighting right there for it. So, yeah.
Hey,
Sounds good.
we really appreciate your coming on. You're every bit as impressive as your dad makes you out to be. And I know how proud he and your mom are of you. You also designed to take the team up for one logo, didn't you, Cameron?
That was my sibling Maddie.
That was your
I
sibling.
am no art.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I screwed that up.
I would love to
now
take the
now we have
credit,
to have her on.
Now I have to have her on. Okay. Hey, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Cameron Levine, a sophomore, finishing up her sophomore season at Johns Hopkins University. She will play next year as a junior for Johns Hopkins University women's lacrosse. Thank you very much, Cameron.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me.
All right. Gary, why don't you tell folks a little bit about next week's show? And we'll also mention the show that we've got coming up in mid-July with Kevin Rocklitz of the Baltimore Ravens. And then we'll say goodnight and pay a final bill.
Well, we're going to, I think, continue the theme of young college athletes in the Baltimore area. We just had a great interview with Cameron Levine from Johns Hopkins. Next week, we're going to be with Courtney Coppersmith, who is also a great young athlete at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC. She's a softball player. She's a pitcher, and she's literally one of the finest pitchers in the country. Her ERA this past year was 0.31, which was an all-time record at UMBC. But that's not the only reason we're going to have her on. And not only the fact that they're three-time defending champions of the America East, but she has been out front and outspoken about some mental health challenges that she's had, and she's met them head on, and she's willing to talk about them. And I think it's a very, very interesting story that she makes both on and off the field. And so she's going to be our guest next week, 1 week from tonight.
All right. And then again, Kevin Rocklitz with the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to come on. What is Kevin's exact position? He's
I think he's vice president of corporate sponsorships or something along those lines.
But he's been the outreach person. The Baltimore Ravens announced something I found very interesting, Gary, after being here 25 years, that they're going to have their first ever Spanish speaking broadcast, radio broadcast starting this season. And I thought it would be an interesting topic to talk about why they felt that there's that much of a need for that and what they feel. Obviously, a team doesn't do it just out of the goodness of their hearts. They must feel that there's not only a need for it, but that it brings something back to them in cementing the relationship with the Latin, the Latin American people that are in this country.
Well, and I think we have a growing Hispanic population,
Yep.
right here in Baltimore. And you would, typically you would associate them with baseball and soccer, obviously. But hey, football is,
football is king,
national sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that that's a great move on their part, and really can't wait to talk to Kevin about how that all happened.
All right. That's coming up in mid-July. We got a couple other things we're going to be working on in the couple weeks ahead. We remind you that all these Thursday night sports discussions in the newsmaker realm are brought to you by the Costas Inn. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. Everybody knows in Baltimore about the Costas Inn, what a great place it is to go eat your crabs, your crab soup, your crab cakes, steak, salads, whatever it is, and sit there either at the bar or in the restaurant. They got TVs all over the place. But during the pandemic, they really stepped their game up because they knew that a lot of people weren't always going to be as comfortable going back into restaurants. So the Costas Inn has really stepped up their curbside takeout portion of their business. Go to the website, costasinn.com. Check out what's on the menu. Call in your order. You can pay for it with your credit card over the phone, and they pack everything up so great. It's not like you're going to come home and go, oh, the soup spilled over my spare ribs or something like that. But seriously, the Costas Inn, #1 place for takeout and carry out. 410-477-1975. Thank you, Gary Stein. This was an interesting interview tonight with Cameron Levine.
Always good to be with you, Stanley.
And always a pleasure to be with you. And congratulations, by the way, on the impending nuptials of your daughter, Casey.
Thank you very much.
I know you're very happy about that.
I love that girl.
I know you do. Only Mark could find a place, find that place in your heart, Gary. Just kidding. Just kidding. All right, for Gary Stein, Cameron Levine, I'm Stan the Fan Charles. I'll be back Monday night with Ross Grimsley when we tackle some Baltimore Oriole issues. Good night, everybody.
Good night.